What's up, guys? Jason Payne, the host of the Sexy Business Status Podcast. I'm here with my man, Cameron Bodden of... Oh, snap. We just broke it. Woo.
You're too jacked up over there,
dude,
man.
I'm getting all... The caffeine, the Zoa kicked in, the alpha brain kicked in, everything kicked in.
Let's go.
Jeez Louise. So Cam Bodden, owner of Green Mango. And those that know Green Mango, I say, oh, you guys know Green Mango? They're like, oh, we see the trucks everywhere. We see the billboard on the 10 and...
Ellsworth. Oh,
no,
10
like
and
32nd Street.
Yeah.
Dude, that one, I see that one like religiously.
That's fun.
How long have you had that one there for?
We've had that one, I think, only this year.
Is it?
Maybe it's been 2 years.
Yeah. So I'm super excited to have Cam here, talk about business, family, scaling a business, employees, culture, all kinds of marketing, branding, all that kind of stuff. He's doing 2x what I am right now. So I'm here picking his brain. This is a selfish podcast.
No, man. It's what you're doing is absolutely phenomenal, and you're an inspiration for your personal brand because like we were talking about, it hasn't been an area of focus for me, but I've finally caught the vision and the fire, and I'm starting to work on it. And what you're doing out there is just plain full out. So I look up to you, man.
No, that's awesome. So when it comes to your brand and the brand recognition, you talk about different pillars and doubling down on those pillars, whatever works for you, just go deeper and harder on those.
Yeah.
What made you go from the Green Mango logo and going from this? I mean, what does a stereotypical pest control company do in revenue per year?
Oh, yeah. Well, most of the companies in Arizona are between 3,000 to 5,000 accounts if you're lucky. Which your average contract value at that stage is $500 to $700 per customer. So you're doing a couple $1 million, which is great, but I mean, it is what it is.
But so let's focus on that. So you have a pest control company doing, 2 to 2.5, 3 million a year. Realistically, how many techs is that? How many employees is that? What does that look like for a stereotypical pest control company? And then we're going to go into the Green Mango version.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while since I've been at that size, but if you have around 3,000 accounts, you're probably 5 to 8 technicians.
So 5 to 8 trucks.
Yep.
Okay.
And you're probably 2 CSRs and 1 router, or a lot of times companies make them all in one. So you might have 2
to 3 gals in the office.
Yep.
Okay.
You don't really have an accounting department. You don't have a billing department. You don't have branch managers. You don't have tech managers. You are the branch manager. You are the office manager. You're the sales manager, everything.
You're the guy.
You're the guy.
You're the guy. So you're in charge of those 8 employees.
And unless you're on the truck spraying routes, it's very difficult to make money.
Interesting.
And I love telling the story, which we can get into, but we were about that stage, 3,000 to 5,000 accounts. We had $250,000 in debt because we started rolling these summer sales programs. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know how you make money at this. It's impossible to try and scale and make money. So I was on a route. I was on a 3-way call with me, my business partner, Dusty, and my dad, who's actually our investor. Mm-hmm. And I'm in Maricopa spraying a house. I'll never forget it. I got the old school Apple headphones in, that it connects to your phone, and I'm spraying a house. There's dog crap everywhere in the backyard. It smells. I got chemical on my face. It's burning. And I remember telling my dad, if someone will give us $250,000 for this company, we will let it go. Cause I'm sorry. Like all I care about is paying you back your money, but I'm gonna have to figure something else out. And luckily no one would take it.
And that was the kind of the breaking point of, okay, we're going to go all in and change this.
We were already all in and literally like looking for someone to say, hey, come take our customers, pay us $250,000. I just want to pay back the debt to my dad. But luckily no one would buy it. So we had to keep going. I didn't want to just close the doors and say, sorry, Dad.
Yeah, you tried to tap out and there was nobody to tap to.
We just kept going, and luckily like things started to turn and go our way. That was year 3, and I didn't take money from Green Mango till year 6. And that's when year 5 is probably when it started to turn. So I had another 2 years of that, like quote unquote, grind or being in
survival mode.
Survival of just, man, I don't know, but I just wake up every day and just keep going.
So where does that just stick it out? I mean, if you have $250,000 in debt, I guess that's a reason to stick it out, right? Instead of just closing your doors or filing bankruptcy. Right. But a lot of, I feel like in 2023, not in 2015 or 2018, in 2023, people want like immediate gratification. They want immediate results. They want immediate revenue. They want to have a multi-million-dollar company like tomorrow. Yeah. And if they don't have it within like, 12 months or 18 months, they're like, this is stupid, it doesn't work, or the customers suck, or we're too expensive, everything under the sun, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I had that mindset as well too. I also had a decade of brand exposure, knowledge, all that kind of stuff, working for my uncle, and then a year doing outside sales for another roofing company. So I had a decade of roofing experience and exposure and indirect branding that I didn't know I was building a brand within a brand. Kind of cool.
It's crazy.
For a decade, I was building my own personal brand. I just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Until someone's like, hey, well, I left. So you probably don't know the story. I left my uncle's company. I was terrified.
Yeah, I'm sure.
To leave I was there for, so
Did you have a family?
Yeah. I had a wife and like 3 kids at that point. I was terrified.
No one really does that. That's crazy. That's a huge compliment to you.
Yeah. So I was like, dude, I can't do this anymore. I was making $12.50 an hour in 2010, got back from my mission. I was doing landscaping, $12.50 an hour. And my cousin called me. He's like, hey, do you want to, will you come, help me? I'm going to leave and start my own roofing company or buy one in Chicago. I need someone to take over production. I'm like, bro, I know I'm landscaping and I'm Spanish and a good driver's license. That's all I got going for me at 21 years old, right? No school.
Which is most people.
Right? So, and I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, well, P, what are you making right now? First person to talks loses, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm making $12.50. He's like, we'll pay you $14 an hour.
I swear. What if I would have said 15?
Right. And I'm like, what did I just do? Well, I swear on my life, I mentally thought I could literally go to a Mercedes dealership and go get pre-approved for an $80,000 Mercedes because I got that $1.50 bump, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so I go over there and he was there for literally 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks of training. And then he's literally in Chicago and I'm by myself.
Yeah.
And I have like two Mexican Guatemalan crews and these jobs coming in, right? Then my other cousin's selling them and I'm supposed to be producing them and loading them and making sure they're installed right and all this stuff. So just baptism by fire, right?
Yeah, you're drinking from a fire hose.
Well, then October of 2010 happens, which is the hailstorm, right? The prolific hailstorm of Arizona in the past, century. And so I was only doing roofing for 9 months and then that happened. So we go from doing less than $2 million a year to doing over $4 million in 1 year.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And still doing production and doing my dance. And so as I go through, just put my head down, grinding it out, right? Just didn't know any different. Salary. And then I was like, hey, I want to make more money. He's like, well, you got to sell, but you can't stop doing production. So I was like, well, I'll do production and I'll sell. Yeah. So I started doing that. So I made a couple extra bucks. And then he's like, hey, I bought a roofing company up in Sedona. I need you to go run it for a year. And I had met Heidi, my wife now.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I got to move to Sedona for a year. Do you want to go up there? She's like, yeah. And we got engaged and married while we were up not literally in Sedona, but while I was up there for a year. And once again, it was like, hey, paper QuickBooks, literally paper books, old school Amish 30-year-old business, and had to flip it from the marketing to the branding to redoing everything, and doubled in size there, came back down and wanted to buy in.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, so I was sales manager and technically GM for lack of better words, running the show, but my uncle still owned the whole thing. And I said, hey, I want to, like, I want in. This was 2017.
Okay.
Beginning of 2018.
Okay.
And different approaches, different scenarios in order to buy them out or to buy in or buy out entirely. Just didn't work out. Right. Yeah. And one of the things was he looked me straight in the eye and he said, you're not my guy. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that kind of solidified it.
Yeah. Well, that helps make my decision.
Yeah. So next day I literally, once again, like I know I have no other job. Like I did landscaping. I was a lifeguard in like high school. Like I had nothing other than like a 2-year mission. Other than that, I got nothing.
Like I don't have the body anymore, so I can't be a lifeguard. So okay, landscaper.
Yeah, and I was like, and let's go throw bales of hay for $10 an hour. And I'm like, okay. And at this point, I'm making 6 figures, but I was like, I don't know what to do. But I'm like, I got pinched, and I'm like, okay. So I said, okay, I'm gonna leave. So I gave my 2 weeks, only lasted 1 week because they're like, why are you telling everybody you're leaving? I'm like, bro, I am leaving.
I'm out.
And I no joke, that week was probably one of the most terrifying weeks of my entire life because I thought that nobody was ever going to call me for roofs.
Yeah.
And that they would always call my uncle or my uncle's company and never call me.
Yeah.
And I this is just a gut, but I had about a 90 to 95% retention when I left.
Dang.
So you're talking multi-millions of dollars of accounts. Be like, nope. They're like, what you knew? They found me on social media.
Was your uncle pissed?
he didn't really have a choice. A little bit, yeah. But at the end
Are
of the
you guys
day,
talking today? 5 years, what is it? 5 years later.
we're cordial.
Okay.
Yeah, we're cordial. That's about it. But that's how we were like before anyway.
Yeah.
So
All right.
it's just kind of is what it is. But yeah, so it was crazy. So I leave, and because I only had one cell phone, and it was a company cell phone from 2010.
Yep.
I'm like, here's a multi-million-dollar producing cell phone number, and my email address, right? And I'm like, dude, those two things are worth literally commas and zeros.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And so I left, and I got a new phone number, which is my current one, and I got a new email address, and I went and did outside sales for another roofing company. I'm like, hey, I was like, I don't want you to give me any leads. I was like, you give me 2 more points for commission. Don't give me any leads. Don't do any marketing. I'm not going to put your logo on my truck. I was like, I'll produce everything. Give me 2 more points. And he's like, yeah, okay, piece of cake. Because, he's like, wait, I spent 7% on marketing. You're telling me I only have to give you 2? I'm like, here you go. So went and sold for him. I went and sold 1.8 million, all self-lead generated.
Wow.
In 1 year.
Because some people were following you.
Because because I had people like just saying, hey, and they'd find me on social media, DMs, Facebook, Instagram. They'd say, hey, what's your new phone number? What's your new email address? I have a custom new build. I have a property, apartment complex, or I have 5 broken tiles for a real estate deal, whatever.
Yeah.
And I realized at that point that the leverage, I always underestimated the leverage and the power that I personally have inside.
Did you have a following then? And like a brand?
I didn't, quiet followers. Like you follow me.
Yeah.
But you don't like my shit. You don't share my shit, but you follow me.
Yeah.
And as you build your personal brand, you'll see that. You're like, man, I'm not getting that many likes or shares or comments. And then you see somebody and they're like, dude, I love your shit. I love your content.
Bro, come on.
Yeah, I love your episode. And I'm like, bro, where's the heart, man?
Give it to me.
Like, come on, dude, give me the share. And but so indirectly, I had a following.
Okay.
Because once again, in 2010, 11, 12, I got with my uncle and my cousin and I said, hey, this thing like Facebook and Instagram, like it's really popping off. It's like, it's becoming, this is a decade ago.
Yeah.
Right. And not nearly what it is now by any means.
Right.
Podcasts were not a thing.
Right.
Personal brand wasn't a thing.
Instagram. I mean, I think Instagram came out in 2010.
Well,
maybe
Instagram,
2009.
Instagram was competing against Facebook still.
Yeah.
They weren't bought out yet by Zuckerberg. So my uncle and my cousin were both like, dude, it's dumb, waste of time, waste of money. We're not putting any of our money into it. If you want to do it by yourself.
Right.
I'm like, okay, new Instagram handle. Or I was like, cool, I'm going to create an Instagram handle at Jason the Roofer.
Yeah.
And so 2010, that's when I was born.
Yeah.
So that was super cool. That was one thing that I did keep with me when I left.
Yeah.
Now, if you scroll back, I have over 6,000 posts on that handle.
Yeah.
You go back probably 2,000 or 3,000. It's mostly my uncle's company and me on there, but like it's all my content. So that being said, I had that whole decade of hit the ground running, as they say.
Yeah.
And so starting my company and where I want to switch to Green Mango was the company I worked for averaged 3 to 5 million a year. I think the most we ever did was like 5.1, but on average about 3.5 mil.
Okay.
And that's actually what the average roofing company in Arizona does, is about 3 million. Yeah, because at that point you don't go from a high paid employee. You actually have to be a business owner and different departments and whatnot. Right. So everything gets more legit, and which means more expensive.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, if you actually brought this up at our mastermind, our scale mastermind, in December, which is super cool. And I was reading the book when you brought it up, and I just listened to it like a couple chapters before, Jocko Willink's Extreme Ownership.
Yeah.
He said that your leaders can only supervise 7 people at a time.
Yeah.
That's the magic number.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my gosh. Well, funny enough, you just said that. How many texts? 4 or 5 texts, 2 or 3 gals in the office, and yourself, or more or less, there's 7 right there.
Yeah.
So, and you are the guy managing those 7 people, their different departments.
Yeah.
And so that's where that breaking point is, because after that, you're going to get burnt out to where you're not going to be able to do your job, or things are going to fall apart and fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
Unless you hire another manager to go do that, but you don't have the cash flow in order to do that. Right.
Yeah.
You're going back. I'm pulling on memory heartstrings right now. Right.
Well,
so
what's funny is even at scale, you still have those problems, and you got to think about, you have a bigger buffer, but still, if you're trying to run a profitable company and maximize EBITDA at the end of the year, you have to be strategic on when you hire, just like you do when you have no one or no money in the bank.
Yeah. So Dory, my COO, said the other day, she's like, we need to, act frugal. Even if you have money coming in, just still stay frugal. Like keep that mindset, right?
Yep.
So going from 3 million to 24 million, obviously that's a huge jump, and it didn't happen overnight. Took a handful of years. But what was the defining moment going from that 3 million to that next jump? And because I feel like most business owners that are listening, small business owners, right? They have anywhere from 1 to 7 employees, and they're doing anywhere from $500,000 to maybe 1 to 2 million. And that massive breakthrough of doing this, like my dad's been doing that system for 40 years.
Yeah.
I think he's in his 39th year in flooring.
Yeah.
In Gilbert. And he's going on his 40th, anniversary for his flooring company, but it's him. And then he has, half a dozen people and sub it out and this and that. And he's been doing it for 4 decades, but he was on vacation. He's the guy. He's taking those phone calls. He's doing all that stuff. Going from that and the American dream, right, of entrepreneurialism and small business ownership, what advice would you give to our listeners going from that 2 or 3 million to that next breaking point of 8 or whatever it is? What advice would you give to them, and what did you go through in order to overcome that? Because most people go there, and that's where resistance hits, and that's where they stop.
Yeah.
And that's where they get stuck.
I think what you're saying, your dad has been doing it for 3 or 4 generations, the same thing. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Most entrepreneurs go through this journey that they're either working for a company or they are wanting to start it because they're 21 years old. They take a chance, and then they start generating some income, and they get a little comfortable. As an entrepreneur, you always have to be taking a chance. And that's the difference between us, is that luckily, and I have to contribute a lot of the taking the chance to my partner, Dusty. He was always wanting to roll the money, and that's why we didn't take any money for 6 years. When we signed our radio contract for $25,000 a month, we were payroll to payroll. We didn't have 25 grand. So when we signed that, it was extremely uncomfortable. And that's what's been so fun as I've put myself out there saying, hey, I want to help other businesses. I'm not opening up a coaching or doing anything like you're doing, but I love talking business and I love helping people. And as I talk to a lot of people, as I've just started to open up my brand and say, hey, DM me and I'll call you and talk to you, is no one wants to take a chance. Everyone, they're making 180 grand a year, but they're living on 90, but they want that 90 grand in savings account because they're just in that fearful mode. And I'm saying, you need to go invest 90 grand into a new silo and take those chances. And, right now I'm talking to my marketing team. There's a $600,000 silo that I'm looking into right now. That's going to put us in a bad position if it doesn't work out. But you got to take those chances.
What if it does?
You got to do it. What if it does? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I see the problem is.
That's huge. And I absolutely love.
So I'm not saying go be reckless, but take a chance on new things, or else you'll just continue to stay in that same motion, because nothing's going to happen unless you're investing more money.
Well, and I love the risk factor there, right? Like you have to jump.
Yeah.
You just do. Sean Whalen
talks every different level.
Yeah. Sean Whalen talks about that in his book, how to make shit happen. Like jump and grow wings on or build your wings on the way down type deal.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always done. I'm like, dude, I was like, buying that next truck. Like you said, I think the other day you said of 115 or 117 trucks. Mm-hmm. Some people are scared to get their second or third truck.
Right.
Right. But when you realize that people will help you get where you want to go, that's why I love hiring people. Like, dude, you have so many employees. I'm like, bro, I need like another 10.
Yeah.
How do you pay for all of them? I'm like, bro, when they come in, if they don't make me any money, they're gone.
Yeah.
But I was like, if I put them in the right place to generate revenue, or to make us money or save us money, then it's fine. But like, I know, because if I can delegate those tasks to that person and we can grow, and I personally don't have to do it, then it gives me an opportunity to go find another silo. Right. Like I said, we just got a billboard for 12 months. That's going to be, it's a 6-figure billboard. Yep. And like that was a big like, type move. Yeah. But as a $12 million roofing company, I still just had that gut like, oh shit, here we go.
You have to take it. You have to do it if you want to keep growing.
So my question is, and I guess what I've done, but I don't know what you've done as well too, is that is almost a skill that is practiced and developed. It's still uneasy and awkward.
Yeah.
as you do it at any level for any amount, whether it's 600 or 100,000 or 5,000, no matter what level that you're at, there's taking that risk. I feel like as you do that, even if it doesn't work, you still get those mental callus that David Goggins talks about, right? You still get that growth and that learning. I feel like the more risks you take, it's almost like a skill that you're developing, so it becomes easier to do.
Yeah, of course.
Like, what does that look like to you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I mean, there's not much I can talk on. But be strategic on what you do, but also you have to keep growing every single time. So, I mean, for example, we had a huge breakthrough with our 104.7 radio contract.
Mm-hmm.
2 years later, we signed with 102.5 and didn't have as much success. So we canceled it and lost a couple $100,000, but we had to do it. We had so much success on 104.7. Why not try 102.5? And for whatever reason, which there are, it did or didn't work. For us, it didn't. And, we'll continue to try other radio stations and try and find another winner. But you have to keep trying. You can't just give up.
So it's very similar to running ads, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are people that they run one ad and they're like, this ad didn't work. Ads suck. Facebook sucks. Algorithms effed up and they're screwing me. And I'm like, dude, you ran one ad for 30 days. I'm like, that's not a big enough test to even know if something works. So the analogy that we use is you need to be throwing 6, 8, 10 fishing poles at a time and throw them in there and then see which one bites.
Well, and which one doesn't bite. Go in each different silo, there's what's considered all in or not. So it's funny because a lot of people know we've had a lot of success on radio, and I've seen a lot of pest control companies jump into the radio, but they don't want to commit to going all in on the radio. They just want to dab. If our contract's 25 to 30 grand, they'll spend 10 to 12, and there's a difference. You can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So that's what I'm talking about. You can't be scared. If you're going to jump into a silo, jump in and go all in on it. Don't go half in and test it here and there.
That's huge. So go all in, whatever that investment is, right? For marketing or for advertising. Maybe it's investing in your fleet. A lot of blue collar guys, right?
Yeah.
So that's huge. So going all in and then knowing that I think people are so scared to lose money that they don't ever jump and take that risk because they're so scared of losing. And I'm like, dude, go jump and the mindset of I am going to win. With 102.5, we are going to win, we are going to win, we are going to win, we are going to win. And then you realize, hey, this one's not working. Let's pull the plug. But you're like, oh man, that one didn't work. So we're not going to try anything else ever again.
Yeah.
It's dude, you have to continually invest in yourself and in your business via advertising you have to stay top of mind.
Yeah.
I had people asking me, there was a forum that came out, I don't know what magazine or internet thing it came. Somebody sent me to it via a reel on Instagram, but it was Home Depot, Target, Walmart, the top 10 juggernauts. They're all in the multi-billions of dollars of advertising. Who the F doesn't know who Amazon is by now?
Yeah.
And they spent $3 billion last year in advertising.
That's crazy.
Target, who doesn't know who F Target is? Home Depot.
Yeah, there's a Home Depot on every corner, man.
Yes.
Come on.
Dude, you know what's crazy though? So Home Depot eats Lowe's for a snack, right? In my opinion. And it's funny when you look at it, Home Depot was $8 billion, Lowe's was 1.5.
Yeah.
It's well, they spent $6 billion more in advertising, but you didn't say there was a Lowe's on every corner.
Right. Yeah.
There might be a Lowe's in every town.
Right.
But there's not a Home Depot every 5 miles.
Yep.
Right?
It's crazy.
And so that's
a great point.
That was huge. But those guys are Walmart. Dude.
Stop. You're good.
Yes.
Stop.
You would think that dude, everybody knows who I am. And us as small business owners doing $500,000 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 12 or 24, we think that everybody knows who we are. We don't need to invest in marketing. I'm bro, you are so either dumb or naive that you think that everybody knows who you are.
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny that everybody knows who Green Mango is. And then you're bro, no, nobody knows who I am. I just scratched the surface. And with all the silos that you said that you have going for you. That being said, I want to pivot to as you grow. There was a guy, another reel that I watched a couple days ago that has $150 million lumber company. And this guy was interviewing just on the streets, hey, what do you do? Okay, I own a lumber company. How much you do? 149 million. He's what? And then he's okay, come here. So he asked him 3 questions. Or he said, hey, what would you contribute your success to? And I forgot what two of them were, but the one that stood out to me the most was he said, I'm in the people business. At this point, at this amount of revenue. I am now in the people business. I go and I look for people to bring into my business in X and Y and Z. So when you go from, like I said, 6, 7, 8 employees, a stereotype, to how many employees do you have?
167, I think.
100, yeah. So 170. I have 85 or something like that. So into the dozens or hundreds of employees, culture and core values, in my opinion, are everything. Mm-hmm. They will make or break a business. I don't care how much money you spend on your billboards and on your truck wraps. If your culture sucks, you're gonna hate your job, number one, and then eventually the cancerous effect is gonna bleed into your clients, and they're gonna see it and realize it as well too.
Yeah.
So that being said, when it comes to building and scaling a business of that magnitude of 8 figures or more, and shooting for 9 figures or shooting for 50 million, how important is it for personal development and developing your team members?
I mean, it's everything. And that's my story, is that for up until probably around 2018, we had a horrible culture. And it's taken 6 years to get it to where it is today.
Let me stop you. Why did you have and I appreciate the humility of like, dude, our culture sucked. Why? Because I want people to hear like, why did you guys struggle for that many years with having a shitty culture? Like,
well, one, we didn't have the money, or we didn't allocate the money to go towards culture. And for me, I don't know if it's because how I was growing up or what it was, but it was just like, you need to show up and do your job, and that's it. And that's not the case now. Like people spend 80% of their life at work. They want to enjoy it. And with how Dusty and I, our personalities, we aren't the Evans. My partner Evan brings a huge side to the table where I'm just weak. He loves to sit in a room, not loves, but he does love it. Like, he'll sit down for 3 hours with someone and hear them talk about all their crap. I just can't do that.
Yeah, he's a teddy bear.
He's a teddy bear.
And he'll just soak it in.
So when people want to vent and people want to talk, I'm just, it wasn't me. And that's not who we had. And it took me a very long time to say, I need that person. So for that reason, our culture sucked. We were having...
Because Dusty wasn't that either.
No, Dusty was worse than I was.
Right.
And that's pretty bad, because I'm pretty, I enjoy talking with people, but it's like, dude, like, suck it up. Let's go. You know?
Black and white. Let's roll.
Yeah. And so we didn't, it took, and here's what it was. And this is what's so crazy about it is even 2 years ago, we had 150 technicians quit. That was our turnover rate. This year was 75. And that's why, we're getting better, but sure. It's taken 4 years, and the wake up call for me. And I tell this story about, I like my job. You say like, oh, the people, like, I was in recruiting mode. I would have, because if I didn't have technicians, I didn't have office people, I couldn't service my accounts. And so it was this evolution of just always being behind. And when you fall behind on one service, so we try and service a customer between 6 and 7 times a year, ideally 7 times a year, bi-monthly.
Okay.
If we fall off on one service, we lose between $2 to $4 million of just straight profit. Right.
Holy cow.
Because everything else is paid for. Trucks are paid for. The only thing that comes out of that is technicians, because we have the trucks.
Sure.
So I'm always falling behind on a service every single year. And so I'm in recruiting mode. I'm at the Diamondbacks game one time. I'm in the line of Dutch Brothers. And because our turnover rate was so horrible, all I can talk about is how we paid more, because that's the only thing we had. We had a cool brand, but it's like, if I'm going to recruit you over, I got to talk about pay.
Yeah, so price.
I see this girl in line, and when people have it and when they don't. She was just sharp, and she stood out to me. And of course, we're needing CSRs. And
CSR is a customer service rep.
Yeah. And I'm talking to her. I'm taking my order. I'm giving her my order, and I pitch her to come work for me. And my whole pitch is on how much money she's going to make. And long story short, she says, "Hey, look, it sounds like you have a great company. You're paying a lot more than I'm making right now, but I'm going to stick at Dutch Brothers because of the culture. And by the way, I make minimum wage." And that was just like I was like, wait, but it was also a light bulb for me as well, because I'm like, selfishly, I'm like, all I have to do is provide a great culture and I can pay minimum wage. I'm paying $3-4 more, And
That's
so
fantastic.
At that point, I tell Dusty, I'm like, okay, convert the warehouse to a basketball hoop, get massage chairs in there, get PlayStations, get Xboxes, get the fountain machine for sodas, for
Mm-hmm.
free sodas, and let's go, dude. And so we made that movement
That
for a
was
couple of years.
2018.
2018. So we started making this movement. Well, that was good, but if you don't have the people in place to help, like, and this is, it's a conversation that Evan's my business partner at Coconut Cleaning. Evan's that king of providing food for people. And if he talks to you, he's going to buy food. He's going to take you out. He's going to buy you that gift and all those things. And that's just not my inclination, right? But there's a fine line between providing the soda machines and the massage chairs. Those things all help. But my
Sure.
conclusion today where I sit is that it's more about the person who cares about you. That's what's going to make them come to work. So 2019, 2020, I read, Jocko, and he talks about how a Navy SEAL, you've already mentioned it, can only manage 7 people. So I'm saying, okay, we're in some pretty crazy situations here at work, but nothing like they are. But I'm gonna adopt this rule of 7, which it takes a lot of money. If you're gonna promote a manager, you have 100 technicians. Imagine hiring a manager, paying whatever you're gonna pay more, whether it's $5 an hour or bonuses, override, whatever it might be. Like, that's a huge increase for me. So that was a big commitment that I had to make. Okay, for every 7 people, I'm hiring a manager. I started to do that. That was step 1. And so our culture started to get a little better. I mentioned 2 years ago, we had 150 technicians. The year before that, it was 200. So all I've seen since 2018, all these little changes. Well, within this past year, I added my last little secret tool, and that's Evan. So Evan comes and works with me at Green
The philanthropist.
Mango, and he just spends time with people. And this year we hit a perfect rotation, which is servicing every single customer 7 times on the year. Our reservice rate was lower.
And you're talking hundreds of thousands of accounts.
Well, we have 30,000 active customers, but we service them 7 times a year.
Right.
So, we service a ton of homes.
Sure.
And our reservice rate was lower than it's ever been. Our attrition rate was lower than it's ever been. We are on rotation. And because of all those things, we increased our EBITDA margin by 7% in 1 year on a $24 million company.
Huge.
And I truly believe it's because having the right people on your team, me realizing, hey, I have the people in 7. I have the soda machine. I have the basketball hoops, the Xboxes, the massage chairs. I'm holding quarterly parties. We're spending $20,000 a quarter on parties for people to come. It's Evan's the last piece, man. And you need to find your Evan if you're not that person. Just take the time and just listen to your people. And that's what I encourage all my managers to do. And so that's my focus this year, is for them to learn from Evan and how he does it, because that manager that's over 7 needs to treat those 7 people the proper way, like Evan treats my managers.
So it's funny you mentioned that. So as you're telling that story, Tommy Mello comes to my head like 10 times, right? Because he has a dream manager.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Why?
Like, what the crap is a dream manager, and why is it so important? And so what I adapted, I got this from Natalie and Brandon Dawson, and I teach this and I coach this religiously in my own business, is the PPFs, the personal, professional, financial goals.
Yeah. 3
of each, because when you truly, and that's where the people part comes in, right? Because you have the basketball hoops and the soda fountains, that's great, but like, you're still not, your people are just selfish. They just are. So when you can cater to their selfishness of like, okay, hey, Cam, what are you working on right now, man?
Right.
Like, hey, you work here 8-10 hours a day. When you go home, what do you do?
Yeah.
What's your favorite hobby?
Yep.
Right? Oh, it's Fortnite. Go buy him a new Xbox 3000, whatever, bullcrap thing. Right? Or like, one of our CSRs was getting ready to take her daughter to Disneyland for the first time during Halloween. Cool. Well, we helped help pay for that trip. I have another CSR, or one of our marketing gals is going to Italy. Her mom's going blind, and she wants to do this one last kumbaya thing before she goes completely blind. She wants to take her to Italy, and I'm like, dude, I was like, figure out how much it's gonna cost. Let me know, and like let's incentivize you to help. Even if it's not like it's not about cutting a check for the whole thing, but it's just a matter of like caring instead of like, well, you should be grateful you got your paycheck this Friday.
Yeah.
Right. Compared to like, oh, but there's the soda machines and there's the basketball hoops and here's the $20,000 quarterly parties. It's like, no, Mrs. Whatever, or Mr. whatever employee or team member, like, what are you working on outside of work that I can help you accomplish?
Yeah, and everyone's motivated by something different, and that's why that one person's so important. I just got slapped in the face the other day. I was like, okay, let's buy a G-Wagon for the CSRs, and whoever has the most referrals or most app downloads the week gets to drive it for that weekend. Who wouldn't want to drive a G-Wagon? I tell my guy, hey, go talk to these girls. And it came back. They're like, no one wants to drive a G-Wagon.
It's stupid. But you think it's freaking awesome.
I'm like, who doesn't want to drive a G-Wagon, man?
Right.
So it's
$200,000 car.
Everyone's different. And their thing is, I don't want the liability. I don't want to pay for the gas. We'll provide the gas. No, I'd just rather have a $60 gas card, or I'd rather have, it's like, all right, cool, we can do that. Yeah. But everyone's motivated differently.
I'd rather have a $100 gift card to Quick Trip.
Yep.
And you're like, what?
Yeah.
So that's the thing is when you truly, so we do those PPFs every quarter and we try and visit them every month, but we redo them every single quarter because that's when you really truly find out the niche of what makes them tick.
Yeah. I love that, man. I mean, that's so cool. We're not doing that. We need to do that.
Do that. And that's, so Natalie and Brandon Dawson, you know, them, I mean, they're juggernauts and they're partners with Grant. And so they've been teaching that for years. And I went and did one of their 10X 360s and that's where I learned that. And Dory and I have implemented that. That has been one of the biggest culture changes for us. I feel like we never had like a shitty culture.
Yeah.
But I think I have PTSD from not being a dick, but if he ever hears this, I really don't care. I went through 8 office managers in 7 years.
I bet, like, that was me, man. I get it.
Like just that constant, like, dude,
it's not intentional. You just don't know the things.
Or burning through sales reps, like right and left. And the only thing was like, well, we pay more commission. We pay more commission. I'm like, dude, stop it.
Yeah.
And so that, like, ours is the same across the board for everybody. But I'm like, dude, I was like, when I bring people in, I'm like, I will help you. And what I started to do, I give credit to Andy Elliott. I learned this from him like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Like I was trying to get a little nugget when I go to and talk to these guys, whether it's a membership or a mastermind or a conference. And he said, when you go and interview and bring on somebody, bring in their entire family.
Wow.
Or really? Especially their spouse. And well, you just said it. 80% of your time is spent at work.
Yeah.
So if I have, let's say Mike, this guy named Mike. If I bring Mike in, he's gangster, he's ready to rock and roll, wants to spray, give me a great technician, gonna kill it. And he's on board. But what if I could get his wife on board too?
I love that, man.
And I bring in Mrs. Mike. Hey, Mrs. Mike, like, what are you guys working on? Oh, we want to buy a house, or we want to pay off this credit card debt or student loans, or we want to, we want to whatever, get a second rental property, or just buy freaking Nikes for my kids, for soccer for my kids for practice.
Yeah.
When you can get that, their number one person in their life on board and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to require a lot out of your husband. I have very high expectations and I need him to meet those. If he meets those, I want to help you achieve those goals of paying down the credit card, man, or buying off the house. Dude, he hit
I'm feeling like an idiot right now. I'm like,
dude, and I'm like, I was like, so I have 87 employees, but I've hired and fired probably 125, right? Coming and going. So I had to bring in over 100. I never even thought about that in my life. And I'm like, holy shit.
Well, that's what I love. Tommy talks about everyone's pay scales being so complicated because as a small business owner, it's like, okay, if they do this, then we got to do that. If we do this, it's like, just make it simple so that your wife can understand. And his biggest thing is you want the pay scale so simple that the wife can understand it so that throughout the day when you're calling your wife, she's asking how many doors you at? Have you qualified for their Pinnacle Club? Have you, where are you at? And they're encouraging the husband as opposed to most wives are like, when are you going to be home? Yeah. Hurry up. No, they're like, go get that sell.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So CP3, our sales manager, you ever met Carlos? Like 6'7"?
I don't think.
Maybe you saw him. You saw him. Big, huge Mexican dude, big old tattoos. Anyways, he literally sent me a screenshot from his wife, Kylie. He had to go run a deal with he was training one of our sales reps.
Yeah.
And they're going to go run a deal. And she's like, don't come home without a signed contract. So literally sent me a screenshot. And I'm like,
that's what I'm talking about.
Because they know, dude, it's a simple math. Okay, well, if you go sell this $10,000 roof at 7% commission, I get $700.
Yeah.
If I don't close it, I get $0. Okay.
Yeah.
So
what wife do you want me to be?
Yeah, like, do you want $700 or do you want zero? Yeah. And do that, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. Let's roll, right?
Yep.
And so the other part too that you guys are doing like a Bahamas getaway thingy.
Yeah. So we did a cruise incentive because for our 7-week rotation because it's such a big deal.
And so we're actually doing that. So our suppliers actually help us out. So super cool. If you're a supplier, by the way, you should do this with the people that you service or cater to. There's one of them that was like, hey, the business owner and their wife get to go if you spend X number of dollars in product. Yeah. Right? By so much roofing material, we'll go. And they've been doing these trips for like 2 decades. Yeah. They're huge. They did like $25 billion last year. One of the biggest suppliers in the country. So they said 900 people. They rent out an entire like Hilton, And they send all these guys. And I was like, oh, cool. But it's just me and my wife. I was like, but what if I want to incentivize my COO or my sales manager, my production manager, my marketing manager, or just a random, team member?
Yeah.
So this other supplier, this happened, the true story, this happened this year. We had done nothing with them 2 years ago. And then 1 year, like, oh, hey, you did enough to where you can go and you're at like $700,000. You have to do, it's $500,000 per couple.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're at 750. And it was like October. Like, if you can do $1 million, Dory, who's my COO, and her husband can go with you.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
game, let's go.
So what I do, I bring in Dory, I say, hey, Dory, do you want to go? Yeah, cool. We need 250. Guess what? They're all five. She's jacked up. She's like, nope, we need some more roofs. We need to do this. And every order goes to that supplier. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, the other one that only did one trip got left in the dust. And we actually did half of revenue with them. And we took all that money and all those orders and put it towards him. Yeah. So this past year in 2023, he comes to me and says, hey, not you and Heidi get to go on this trip this year. I think it's, we're going to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Last year was Costa Rica. And he's like, how many team members do you want to bring on your trip with you this year? Like literally changed like
everybody.
Oh, it changed my mindset about all this thing. And I'm like, bro, I was like, well, I have 4 managers. Or I have 3 managers and my wife and I. So 4.
Yeah.
He's like, well, it's simple. It should be easy enough to put on a napkin, right?
Yeah.
Well, 4 couples times $500,000 is $2 million in product. Yeah. We did 1.99 or 1.98. He's like, hey, I think we'll do a little bit more than that because he sees scaling, right? He's like, you'll do more than 2 million next year. We'll waive the $100,000 that you're off. And so literally me, my sales manager and his wife, my CEO and his wife, and my production manager and his wife, we're all going to Hawaii for free for a week.
Yeah.
Right?
Perfect.
So whether I'm paying for it or not, the principle is still the same of like, how many of those guys, especially when it comes to trips and cruises, how many of our team members would save up or spend that 5 or 10 or however many thousands of dollars to go on that cruise or go on that trip? Yeah. 95% of them will never go on something like that. No. Or if they do, that'll be their one bucket list item. Well, what if you as the business owner, as a CEO of your business, you come in and you're like, I'm going to be that guy that's going to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you're going to earn it. It's not given, right? I learned that a long time ago. Do not give people stuff. They have to earn it. But like, dude, they totally changed my entire like philosophy of team members and incentivizing them. Like, dude, figure out like, I don't want a G-Wagon.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, people just want more money. They want to raise. They actually don't. They might want that Martin Luther King's coming up, right? They might want that Monday off and maybe have it paid off.
Yeah, PTO is one of the most requested things.
To go.
Yeah.
One day, who freaking cares? See you later, bye. Well, in my opinion, right? One day, one person, like, dude, it's peace out. It's like,
well, it's easier than planning a full cruise or a trip.
Yes. And you're going to pay them while they're off for that anyways too, right? So,
but what I would say to that, because again, not everyone loves cruises. A lot of people are scared of a cruise ship. So we gave a cash offer as well, but it was half the amount of a cruise because we want them there. Selfishly, we're winning on all fronts. We want to have the incentive for them to make it to go, but also think of the culture and the buy-in that happens when a whole company's on a cruise.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Absolutely crazy.
But not everyone loves it. So we said, hey, if a cruise is, $1,500, we'll pay you $750 out because we want you to go. So you're going to take a hit.
Yeah.
If those that want to come, we'll pay the full thing.
Yeah. So case in point to this story here, there's an analogy. So the same guy that came to me and said, hey, you did, $750,000 in product purchasing with us. Thank you so much. Here's our cashback rebate. Open this cute little folder with all this report bullshit. And he's like, here's your cashback rebate. And I'm like, dude, either you're not married or you're stupid. Or you don't own a business, run a business. You give me, it's not cash either, by the way. They're like, we'll give you a credit for your bill. I'm like, dude, that gets diluted in seconds. Yeah, I don't care. Zero value to me. Yeah. Hey, would you take that? Freak no. Okay, cool. And I was like, my wife's, even if you cut me a check for $5, $10, $15, $20,000 for as the 1 or 2% rebate, cashback rebate, you give that to me. Dory, my COO, is going to spend it on something, not in a bad way, but it's going to get dissolved in the business in seconds. Yeah. When you have, I think you said you have a $200,000 payroll. I have a $100,000 every week payroll, every Friday. Yeah. My payroll is at 100 G's every single Friday. $100,000 comes out of the bank account. Like,
I feel your pain.
You feel it, right? So from there, it's like, so 20 grand, I was like, that's 1/5 of my payroll. I was like, that doesn't get me jacked up. That doesn't make me tick. And that's the word I use. So I was like, so don't give me, don't take it from, don't drop it from my bill. don't cut me a check because my wife's going to spend it on something and I'm not going to participate in it. So, and I told him, I was like, dude, you need to do what this other supplier is doing and send us on a trip.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's dumb. It doesn't work. Nobody likes those. I'm like, I'm telling you right now that the two things you're offering me, I don't want.
Yeah.
Give me a trip. He's like, give me 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, brings me back this beautiful new folder and it says Costa Rica 2023. And I'm like, my man, now we're talking. Because that's literally what they did.
Yeah.
And that was the one where they went from that. And I'm like, well, what if I want to take another person? They're like, well, instead of doing this, just do this. And we did it. And so, they went from doing like 350,000 in 1 year of purchasing with them to $1 million in 1 year. Just because my tick was take me and my wife somewhere out of Arizona for a week. Because what does it do for my wife? Now, what does my wife do? Yeah, just like you said. Oh, my wife's like, bro, well, there's like 4 distributors, 4 big ones that we use.
Yeah.
She only talks about one. She's like, hey, how much do you need? How much do we need to buy from them?
I want to go to Costa Rica.
Where are we going next?
Yeah.
Because they do like crazy. They go Aruba and Jamaica and like all kinds of Cancun and Hawaii and but it's like 4 seasons type shit too. It's not like the Holiday Inn or the Motel 6. They're great trips. Wrapping all that up, guys, I want you guys to understand that when you truly understand, when it goes to the whole reason for this last segment that we're talking about with Cam is when you scale, you bring on employees. You actually inherit their problems, whether you like to admit it or not.
Yeah.
Then we call it the Evan effect. Then Evan comes in and puts her arm around him and says, hey, I love you, man, and it's going to be okay, and we're going to work through this. And because he simply does that instead of what I used to do, and it's a skill that is built up, and that what you used to do, and Dusty used to do it, and 95% of most business owners do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because it's black and white. It's like, dude, I don't want to deal with their bullshit. Like, go away. Yeah. Instead of like,
I'm not a babysitter. I provide a job for you, and that's enough. That's not enough.
Yeah, and especially in 2023, it's not enough. You don't, and it's not a union, right? That's like you truly have to. You are in the people business, and when you can bring those, and the best part is. We were talking about this at the mastermind of like recruiting people. I have never spent $1 on Indeed. Was it jobbing.com? I only know jobbing.com from the arena. I mean, I've never been to the website, but like all those hiring websites, I've never been on one. And I've hired over 100 employees in 4 years.
It's amazing, man.
But when you truly can create that culture, find out if your culture sucks, by the way, and then tweak it and then implement it. But when you really have momentum going with culture, your employees and your team members will naturally, just like the Dutch Bros gal. I love that story. I'm gonna use that forever, by the way. Because it's true. It's like, dude, I love my culture. I love where I work. There's one guy named George Sosa that will not come work for me because he loves my uncle. He has 13 brothers and sisters. I brought over like 6 of his brothers that used to work there. 5 out of the 6 work for me. This guy named George Sosa, nicest dude in the world. My wife loves him. I love him. So, the dude won't freaking come over.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, Mr. T takes good care of me. And I'm like, okay. And but that's the power of culture. I see that in Chick-fil-A. I see it, dude, In-N-Out. My wife just hit her 20-year work anniversary at In-N-Out.
What?
Yes. She started when she was 16 years old. She's 36. 20 years working at In-N-Out. Is that nuts? But they do just like you talked about. They run out Wet and Wild. They do softball tournaments. They do basketball tournaments. They do golf tournaments every quarter. I feel like every other month they're doing something, but they're not. But nobody. I mean, there's like 7 different levels, and they start making $17 an hour. So it's not like we'll pay you 6 figures to flip burgers. Like that's not the business plan won't work out, right? Yeah. Now the store managers do, believe it or not, but like those guys, no, they want a place to call home.
Yep.
They want to feel loved. To finish this off, Tommy Mello talks about this like crazy. He said the number one thing that team members want to do is they want to hang out with other team members outside of work.
Yeah. And
so if your culture sucks and they don't want to be there, they won't find that other team member where they want to go camping or they want to go drinking or down the Salt River or snowboarding or shotgun shooting or whatever, right? Golfing. That is literally what it comes down to. So the power of building and going all in, taking the risk, right? Recapping this whole podcast. Is taking that risk at any level, because you're always going to have to, every single level, whether you're doing 2 million, 12 million, or 24 million, there are risk levels that just require more commas than zeros. That's all it is. Yeah. So taking that risk and jumping is number one. And then once you do that, it's a skill set that you'll develop as you go. It still sucks. It's still awkward, still uncomfortable, but you do that. And then from there, when you bring on these employees, learn to treat them as people and understand that you're in the people business. And if you take care of them, they will make your life so easy and your job so much easier.
So like I look back and like, gosh, I'm an idiot, man. But it is what it is.
A lot of life lessons.
Yeah.
So last but not least, as we wrap up here, Green Mango, advertising, marketing, getting attention, right? What would be the number one thing for someone to get attention? What has been the number one? Now you have different silos, right? So all those accumulatively get you to 24 million. What's been the number one thing? And pest control is different than any other industry, but what has worked for you guys the most? What's been like hey, this has worked really, really well for us because you went all in on it. What's that one marketing or advertising tool that you and Dusty, before you had that breakthrough, that got you guys to really go from here to here?
I would say consistency. And because what's important is consistency within your brand. And I learned this from Dusty, and that is you're doing everything you can to stand out to that customer for them to remember you. Well, if you're not consistent with your colors, if you're not consistent with your font, if you're not consistent with your message that you give, whatever that might be, we're premium. When people think about Green Mango, I want them to think we're premium. That doesn't change. So what happens is there's a lot of companies out there that just switch their consistency and always changing it. It's hard enough to get that attention from the customer. So you're trying to put these things in people's minds, like these stamps. Hey, flat black trucks, green logo, premium, and Nike Dry Fit. Those are the things that we stayed consistent on. So whether they saw it on the billboard, on the radio, on a Google ad, on an Instagram post, if they didn't see the word Green Mango, but they saw a flat black truck, we want them to think, I wonder if that's Green Mango. And that's the key. So as we did these other silos, it popped and it worked. But our number one thing is customer referral. No matter how much money up until last year, because we spent so much money on Google, our customer referral outperformed any silo 2-1. We weren't
2-1.
2-1.
Wow.
We weren't selfish in our offer, and we took care of the customer, and we stayed true to who we were as a service, which was we're a premium service. We guarantee scorpion control, and people don't see scorpions when they're with Green Mango, and for that reason, they want to talk about it.
So when you say referral source, how does one going about? Because I worked for a company where they had over 10,000 previous customers, and they never reached out to them ever for referrals or for anything. It was just like if they left a 5-star review, it's because they did it on their own because they wanted to. Yeah. So there was no there was always defense. There was never offense come to the referral program. Yeah. So it's not a dollar amount that you cut a check to that client necessarily. It's do you have somebody that is on the phones all day just asking for those referrals, or what does that look like?
So each service, we have the luxury of seeing our customers every 7 to 8 weeks. So within that service,
which is huge. Mine's a one and done most of the time.
Yeah. So everyone's different, but for us, we leave a pamphlet that essentially explains our referral program, has a referral card in it. We just launched our app that has a QR code or a referral code that they can send out very easily. But our whole point from the sales process to the initial technician when they go out, we just blow up the referral and make sure that they know this is huge. So when we first started doing it, people thought we were crazy because we were giving away so much. Your guy that came in, I forget his name right now, great guy, the marketing guy with the beard, lives in California. What's his name?
Nicky T.
Yeah.
My business partner. Yeah.
The man. He talks about, his word wasn't Grand Slam offer, but it's
Godfather.
The Godfather offer. And our Godfather offer is that if your bi-monthly service is $100 every 7 weeks, we'll give that to you for free. And then your buddy that's signing up, we'll give him a free initial, which is $200. So collectively, $300 for free. That's huge. And that was our Godfather offer. And people love it.
Interesting. That's crazy. Yeah. So if you don't have a referral program, you should probably develop one, find one that works, tweak it to your business, to your industry, and use it, because it's so true. I mean, you guys have hundreds, if not thousands, of 5-star reviews on Google and Yelp and whatnot. And it's huge because when you go and you service somebody and they like your services, wouldn't that be a reason for them to be like, I go back to LDS, called the MTC, the Missionary Training Center. It's literally a glorified sales with some gospel and some Jesus attached to it. But it's a glorified sales training program. It just is.
Yeah.
But I love it because part of the things when you have your reports once a week and you report to, your districts and your zones and whatnot, you literally say, well, how many referrals did you ask for? So when you go to a member's house who's already in your program, right?
Number one thing for the church.
Yes. Number one thing, like, hey, who do you know that could use the gospel? Who do you know needs Jesus in their life, right? Does it change? Take out Jesus. Who do you know needs pest control? Who do you know needs a roof? Who do you know that needs a paint job or that needs a truck or that needs whatever? Yep. Like when you truly understand that, but what happens is you have to be proactively asking for those referrals.
Yeah. And then it has to be a Godfather offer in place.
Yeah.
But it starts with asking. That's it.
Right. Because on the back end, it's like, well, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
Like, ask me for referrals. Like, what do I get? Right. For the church, you really don't get anything technically, right?
Just get the blessings, man.
You get blessings, right? But nothing tangible, right? Yeah. You're not getting like sins taken off your scorecard by any means. But the principle of it is you have somebody, a program, whether it's an app or a pamphlet or a CSR, somebody reaching out for that referral, and then in return, thanking them via a service or a discount or something there. So it's a two-part process. One, asking for the referral, getting the referral, and then thanking them for the referral with some sort of a discount, whether it's monetary or off future services.
Yeah.
So
don't be cheap. Do it.
Do it. Number one referral program. That's crazy. So, alrighty, guys. Thanks for being on here. We got Cam Bodden, owner of Green Mango Pest Control, doing 24 mil. And guess what? Fast forward in 2 or 3 years, he's going to be in here like, dude, we did 36 mil. We're on track to do 50.
That's right.
I guarantee you we're going to hear that. And next time, in 2 or 3 years, when we do that one, I'm going to be over 20 mil myself. So
yeah, let's go.
Yeah, it's happening. It's not if, it's a matter of when. And we're just going to press fast forward on that. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to the Sexy Business Status Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Payne. There's no ads, no commercials. The only thing we ask is that if you're a small business owner or somebody that you think could benefit from this, go ahead and share it on Spotify, Apple podcast, and share it with somebody that could benefit from this. We want to help the small business, especially the blue collar guys, take their business or family and their income to the next level. See you on the next one. Be great.